Hi, this is Phil, and I'm here to tell you all about the Capes and Lunatics Patreon. Get early access to all of our interviews, including the monthly Chichester Chats with writer and comic book legend D.G. Chichester, new episodes of classic Capes and Lunatics shows, including The Quantum Zone, This, That, or the Third, and many, many more specials, all completely uncensored. Access starts for $3 a month, full video when you pledge $5 a month. Check out the link in our show notes or go to patreon.com/CapesandLunatics. Hope to see you there.
This is D.G. Chichester, and you're listening to the Capes and Lunatics podcast.
Welcome back to another month of the Chichester Chats. Hey, it's the December-ish episode. It's, so it's issue 2 of Daredevil Black Armor. Ho, ho. Holy crap, it's the Hobgoblin.
Why isn't that the cover copy?
Oh,
I mean,
come on.
ho, Hobgoblin,
Hobgobble gobble.
That could have, moved right in from Thanksgiving debut to the Christmas follow-up. I mean, oh my God, that would have been perfect cover copy.
You heard it, Brevoort. Chichester said I should be writing cover copy. All right, I have Phil. There's Lilith, and of course, the man himself, Mr. D.G. Mr. My mom says I'm talented Chichester. Hello, sir.
Okay. No, she didn't say I'm talented. She just said she wanted the comics. That's all. She didn't want anything to do with me. She just wanted the comics itself. So, thank you guys. It's good to be back here. And again, for the at least next 3 episodes existing in the current timeline. So, it's fun.
Phil, did you want to start it off with that question that we talked about?
Oh, yes.
We probably can't say, but we're nosy, so we'll just see what we can get out of them.
That's right.
Oh,
yeah, because I saw online yesterday that I think Timeless comes out this week, the issue, but they always I guess they did it last year too, and they tease stuff that's coming up in the coming year.
Yeah.
And supposedly there's a leaked page floating out there showing Terror Inc. himself. So,
listen,
do you know any? Are you involved? That's my first question. Are you involved?
I better fucking be involved in this deal. But if it's, I mean, seriously, from what they've done with the character in the past with purple Deadpools and well-intentioned but sort of weird mercenary, David Lapham, versions, weird mercenary dress, dressed in tactical gear things, which God. Tacks well away from what the character should be. And this is not being coy. This is not being, I can't say, and I know I spent a better part of a year not telling you about Black Armor, but this is, I mean, I know nothing about anything. The only thing I know of is there's an appearance of him in a Spider-Man 2099, which I saw a news, blurb on. I guess there's a new Spider-Man 2099 coming, or
there's always a new Spider-Man 2099.
I think it's weekly in January, like every week.
Okay, so it's weekly in January. Well, the 4th issue has they resurrected Terror Inc., or they basically said the deathless mercenary appears, in a future thing, and actually looked like him, at least from the illustration I saw. So if that thing you sent was a new illustration. And I guess it looked like it. It didn't look like Zaffino or Richard Pace or any of the other ones that that have been done. Excuse me, for real. Maybe that's from there, but I have no idea what that's from. I mean, it looks, if you look at it, he's got like some kind of weird circuitry pattern or something on his top coat. So I'm going to guess that it's from that. But I don't know anything about
Yeah,
we'll wait another year, Phil. It's fine.
Again,
honestly, I wish I did know, and I wish listen, if I've gained any, and it's hard to tell because you live in sort of a bubble with these things. There's no real reporting, but if I've gained any renewed cachet from this black armor thing, then I'll definitely spend it pitching CB Sapolsky on a Terra Incorporated,
just let us know where you need the petition. When you need the petition, we got you.
Start the petition early so I can, bring it up and present it. It'll have at least 2 signatures, 3 signatures, including mine.
Well, your mom 4.
No, again, she won't care. She has no idea. She's only recently, been excited by the revelation to her that Daredevil is a lawyer, so that's something new. That's just
he's a lawyer.
He's just come up. No knowledge. She had no.
Mom, he had his own TV show. Come on.
She never entered the. She never entered a comic shop. My father, took all this stuff when he was alive. When I was writing comics, he took them. I gave them to him, and he kept them. And I found them recently, like in a nice little. He did a nice little collection of them, and had kept them. Yeah, I know, it was sweet. And but my mom was like, not her thing.
I think Daredevil Black Armor has been a really hot commodity, as I was talking about earlier before we jumped on. I was nice enough. I went into my comic book shop to pick these up. I had the variant cover. They had run out. Right. And there's this little kid, and he's like, "Oh," and I was just like, "Okay, here." So my guy had to order me another one, so I only have this cover for right now. But yeah,
only the Mark Bagley's cover. Was there more than one variant cover, or just the one? I thought there was several for number 2, but I guess there's just ended up being one. I'd seen other illustrations.
I think there's some more that are like the 1 in 25s.
No, so even more rare. Because on the PDF that I get to proof, I guess they include all the covers, just so. They're there, so I had seen like other covers.
I actually just got the 1 in 25 for me from the first one, so that should be here, unfortunately, after Christmas. But yeah,
well, that guy bends over backwards for her because she's putting his kids through college.
Oh,
and
good,
it's Rock
good,
Band.
good.
Yeah.
She makes like multiple trips to that store every week. So yeah,
Well, that's good that it has that. I guess
I support my local comic book shops. I support too.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's the whole point. Otherwise, there won't be any places.
Exactly.
And you'll be lost trying to find a comic, or even know that there's a comic on. Well, Comixology doesn't exist anymore, but your Kindle library. You have to be so specific about looking for something and not seeing something on the shelf. And that's it's
a third space, and we're losing those desperately. And I really feel like the comic book community does need more community, so that people don't just see like what they see on like X and social media and be like, "Ooh, I don't want to be a part of that."
Right. No, I'm with you.
But yeah, everybody in my store loves your books because they were gone. If I hadn't had it on the pull list, I wouldn't have had a chance.
I mean, I can't go in there. I can't find the variant covers in my store. They're gone by the time I get there. I think I was there by like one. I was there probably a little before 2 this week, and the variants were gone.
It's a weird world where the Mark Bagley cover is like the least. Interesting one. Oh, it's only a Mark Bagley cover, and but yeah, I was saying before we started I went to the shop and granted he only had a very few on the shelf to start with because I think he was mostly a subscriber or pull list subscriber business, so he said he had quite a few set aside for subscribers, but there were only 3 on the shelf, and I went with my mom and my son, and my son grabbed one, and my mom grabbed 2, including the variant cover by Netho. And I want that one for myself, and I have to get this one for her friend Marianne. So I'm standing there left with nothing, and it's like, but I came.
You came with me.
I came to get my comic, so I'd have a copy of my comic, and I still don't have a copy of number 2. And maybe I could.
If you want, I can send you one.
No, that's good. I'm going to go to the Satter store today, the one that told me last time. Good for you. Good for you, little. Good for when I pointed out that I wrote it. So maybe he'll do the same again. I wrote this one too. Good for you.
Hello, Mr. Shopkeeper. Would you like a signed copy of Daredevil Black Armor number 2?
No interest. Not even any interest. I mean, my mother was so annoyed at that one. Why didn't he ask you to sign them all or something? It's like, well, we bought them all probably, but anyway. So number 2. So what do you guys see, think, ask? These are unusual ones because they're shows, because we have to structure them differently. So what's your take? What's your feel from the universe out there? Because like I said,
what kind of research did you do for Hobgoblin and Sabretooth?
Barely any.
Not that there's any needed. I mean, they're very straightforward kind of characters.
No, that's a great question because the point was obviously to put him up against people he sort of hadn't been up against before, and also
to justify the armor,
quote unquote, justify the armor, right? Just justify the armor. The only justification to the armor was Devin and CB saying, do a story about the armor. So he's in the armor, and it's funny when he's in that. Like, I'm not doing anything I think any different. Well, I'm doing it differently, obviously, because I'm a better writer, I think. But incident wise, I'm not doing anything worse than I did even from the first issues when I wrote Daredevil. I remember him like grabbing a guy for information, and just hanging him upside down from a water tower. Not torturing him, but essentially like giving him, the hard business to get like a simple answer out of him. But now because it's that those things are in this black armor, it's suddenly perceived as like, oh, it's the tougher, rougher, more aggressive Daredevil. So it's really funny when you just shift it like that. But, Hobgoblin, I tried to parse the 72 different origins and who he is, and
especially
and
in the 90s.
Yeah, like, is he this? Is he that? Is he the? And Devin, the editor, did yeoman's work trying to get me an answer, or when we'd speak, to try to parse it out. And I just finally said, just go with the madman. Just go with the insanity of it, and bombs and smoke and blades, and have fun with that. And there's never going to be an instance where we're going to get into his quote unquote personality or take his mask off or do anything. I have no plans for that. And Sabretooth was just like pure force. I mean, it was writing it from there, and I'm sure my voice for him is different, but I'm so different now as a writer than I was. I'm taking there was a Sabretooth series, and I picked that up and I read that, and obviously I looked at some different incidents where he showed up, and I think I put a little Liv Schreiber in there, to kind of spin
so hard not to, honestly.
Yeah, but I love that bit, but the whole sweetheart thing and the whole it just felt right. It just felt like this condescending brute, and everyone seemed to love the Uber scene, the pre-Uber scene where looks like you guys are looking for fine folk or looking for a ride, and that was just directly inspired by Netho's illustration. Once I saw that, like, that was just a awesome bit of business that he kind of put in there. So it was just that type of research, but not a deep dive. I mean, I did a deeper dive, frankly, into the mindset of 1%ers to get to Strucker's monologue and that sort of mentality, because he's channeling the way, unfortunately, some people really think about society. And
nobody wants to work anymore.
No, there's an insane.
Nobody wants to work for nothing anymore. How dare
exactly.
There's an insane book called Survival of the Richest, and it's all about that exact mentality. Like we are the prime species, and the rest of them don't matter.
Well, I mean, that's a Nazi for you, right?
There's a channeling of that, but it's an insane book. It's just like a whole group of folks who just have way too much at their disposal, who are looking at the rest of us as rabble, and and they're just going to bunker themselves off from the world instead of using their
Is
resources.
that a shot at Mark Zuckerberg building bunkers?
At least he picked, a good location like Hawaii, full of earthquakes and volcanoes, because that's a perfectly secure place to build your bunker. So,
I really love this page, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
I never had the pleasure of torturing the last Daredevil, and I was like, good.
Yeah. But that's why this has been such a joy. And yeah, that is a great, great page. And, especially when I look at it from the perspective of the plot description and then seeing what Netho brings to life. There's so much raw energy for me that comes out of scripting these things in this way, this old school, quote unquote, Marvel style way, where I've written a plot and I've said, Hobgoblin appears over the top of the boxcar, in his glider, whatever it is, full of smoke and, ready to hurl a bomb. And then you get that, right? That pluses it by a factor of 50, a factor of 100, and it takes you into a whole different place. I mean, as I've said before, there's lots of dialogue in the plots to an extent. Daredevil's going to say this, Sabretooth's going to say that, maybe. But in that instance, there wasn't. I didn't have a line, I don't think. But once you saw that, it was like, there's the line. There's there.
Like, everybody was excited for Spider-Man. I was excited to see how Hobgoblin and Daredevil would interact in this version. So. And
I thought it was fun. I mean, it's like you just rip into him, and there's the points where obviously he gets overwhelmed, and I think that's really appropriate. That's kind of, is it in this one? Am I giving anything away? No, it's in this issue where Sabretooth says you're only human. Yep. And it's just,
allegedly,
but you can't, he can't go past, a certain point. So he's going to get beaten. He's not going to avoid everything. I think there's people that was always the complaint about the suit before, right? That he doesn't need it because his senses are going to help him avoid everything. Well, if he can avoid everything, then he can go out, in his skivvies. He doesn't have to, he can run around like Namor, it doesn't, matter. But
somewhere Justin just woke up going, what the heck?
That's right.
Exactly. What's happening? But no,
a lot of frenetic action, and I love that. Like, that's what I was looking forward to. I was really hoping you were going to lean into the physicality of Sabretooth against Daredevil's acrobaticness, and I think that really paid off a lot. I really like that matchup too.
Good. If you like this, 3 is going to blow you away.
Well, you said it was going to keep ramping up, and it did.
3 honestly exhausted me. I was I remember sending in the last pages and said, "How the hell did we do this?" And I don't mean it in a bad way. I mean, it's just it just gets. And then 4 has a different pacing to it, purposefully so.
It's the
which
penultimate.
I really. Well, but I just, it shifted gears, and it also purposefully looked at Daredevil's ability to, I'm going to say, save the day or save people in a different way than some of the brute force stuff you're seeing in 2 and 3.
He's going to sue Strucker. Yes.
That's right. We set up a courtroom
drama.
drama. I lifted a lot from the relaunch of Star Trek: The Next Generation, where Q put the
I thought we were going to go all Law and Order on it. Okay.
No. We're just going to do this long-winded Gene Roddenberry scene. I'm going to revert to my old ways. Lots of captions, lots of overwritten dialogue, and have a good time with that. That would be fun. Exactly. I had that handy. So the action was very appropriate and welcome and fun. And,
you did give him a harsh tongue lashing in this panel here, where you told him he was just a man without sight performing street acrobatics in a pathetic quest for approval. How dare you, sir?
Isn't that the? I'm sorry, Lilith. I don't know. I saw some people say,
don't let me catch you at GalaxyCon. How dare you?
It's too much, monologuing, but it's specific. This was like a creative choice. 3 pages of ripping into him, and monologuing. So basically that last page, he says, fuck you. I mean, that line, if you put a little asterisk next to it, and had a translation, just ring the bell is just essentially saying fuck you at the end of the thing. And Netho, to his credit, again, I cannot give this guy enough credit. That was not a splash page, that last page originally. And he turned it into it, and restructured the pages prior so that he could land on the splash page,
nice.
Which is so much more effective, than just ending on. It was always going to end on the face, but ending it in that way, man, for me, just like I was waiting for people to see that, and a couple of people. Again, it's a small bubble, and you don't know what everybody's impression is, but some people said, I really like the issue, but what a cliffhanger. Now I got to wait. It's like, yeah, that's the point.
That's the point. You ever read a comic book? Exactly.
Why do I feel we're going to get a Daredevil Kingpin team up against Strucker? Because just Strucker saying, oh, you're used to, sparring with failed criminals like Wilson Fisk. I'm just like, oh, no, you didn't. You did not insult the Kingpin. Which, again, Kingpin is not someone above punching a Nazi. I mean, he has fought the Red Skull.
Right.
No,
I'm gonna
Nobody
give it
should
away.
be above punching a Nazi.
Wilson does not come back. Wilson was not a part of the whatever the machinations of
and
everything.
That's okay. We got so much to look forward to.
Yeah, Wilson
really
Wilson had his moment, and just the right amount of Wilson.
Exactly.
For this particular story.
And I guess it wasn't Lil's favorite part, but I love the interaction with Spider-Man. I mean, they need to give this man the Spider-Man book. Come on.
It was so much fun, and again,
first line, he's like, "Well, if you don't want him to call it armor, don't make it look like armor."
But that's the meta part of this I've enjoyed so much, is because you guys know from.
And if not Deadpool, then of course Spider-Man would give that.
Right, but how many times did I say over these episodes, when we talked about Daredevil, like I never called it armor. I mean, that's me talking, through the characters
it's tactical gear.
But it's it's a suit or it's whatever. But for me, that's the great meta thing about this is I get to play that. If you don't want to call it armor, don't make it look like armor. I never called it armor. And even having that literal line in there. But that dialogue was in the plot. I sort of knew that line from early on, but I didn't know that page until I saw, what Netho had done. And that was a great, again, just visual. And for him, who had wanted to draw Spider-Man for a long time, that was his first chance to draw Spider-Man in a
I have a feeling
comic.
Somebody's gonna tap him on the shoulder.
Oh, I cannot imagine. That's what I've said. I mean, I've gotten a great privilege of working with him. We're friendly on Twitter, and I think we have a good back and forth, and I think this has been a good creative teaming. But that guy is on a trajectory with this, I think, because if this thing is as well received as it seems to be, again in this bubble, and he's working on Daredevil. And he's making Daredevil vibrant, and Daredevil's quote unquote real character. I mean, he's already been snapped up for another limited series on a set of popular characters. I know he said that he's working on something. I don't think he said which characters they are, and I know what they are. But and I think it's just going to be that way going forward. I can't not imagine the more he's in playing with Marvel toys in the sandbox that he's not going to get tapped, and so he's going to be a very hard person to work with again for a while, or maybe in my lifetime, just in the sense he deserves all the success he gets, because he's a tremendously talented. I mean, how many people, can nail that sort of level of motion and action and freneticism and stuff that you're seeing on those pages, even the multi-panel pages, and also deliver on the storytelling moments and the details. Look at
it's so cinematic. It's gorgeous.
Look at the first Strucker panel, and look at that freaking ridiculous painting in the background. Like on the wall, he's got Strucker on a horse. This proud,
classic dictator general.
Exactly, but it's so this temporary base this lunatic is built under Hell's Kitchen. you know, he's taken the
gotta
time
have a mural of him as a great man.
Self-portraits, yeah.
Right. You know, but he put that in, and that was like, oh my God, look at that little wonderful detail. Or there's a moment where Strucker puts in his monocle for a particular reason, and it's just such a great moment of thinking the stuff through. So yeah, the Spider-Man scene was a ball to write, but it's just the right amount, you know, for me. I mean, it's just the right amount of it. You know, to me, there's and that was a good editorial suggestion. You know, why don't you, not for that scene particularly, but early on, like, why don't you throw in Spider-Man? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? You know, it was like sort of like, here's some ingredients. If you've ever watched the Great British Baking Show, you guys ever watched that show? Yep. That one challenge they do midway through where they basically give them a recipe they've never heard of it, and it's just a sheet of ingredients. You know, Paul and Prue want you to make, you know, a lard pie with, like, you know 15, you know, croutons on top, you know, and all they get is a white sheet with, like, ingredients. Like, that's how it sort of was. I don't know what that is, but here, you know, don't forget to play with Spider-Man. Make Matt suffer. Where's Matt's love interest?
Exactly. Make Matt suffer. And that's classic. Because, like I said, that whole monologue ripping him apart. Like, yes!
That's the top. That was the top of the line.
Oh, I chuckled at when that Asgardian thing came back around. That joke.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you. Thank you. It was like, yes, set it up and, like, pay it off. It's like, you know, verily, or just, you know, speak Latverian, you know. Daredevil demands.
I'm waiting for that to come back around. But yeah, no, I mean, Netho's doing a good job. You're throwing him in like a big list of characters. I mean, everything from Spider-Man to the Mole Man. We got the Mole Man. I was like, oh,
I know.
I know.
I want to credit. Let me see if it's handy, but
let's see, which version of Daredevil Black Armor #2 do I have sitting in this room? Oh, that's
no. So I'm gonna. Is there a focus place in here? No, I don't know. Oh, there we go. You guys read this book?
I have not read
Can't say
that.
that
No.
I've had the pleasure.
No, you got to pick this up. So, Christine Hannafalk, who runs the Other Murdoch Papers, blog, you know, site, where they've written lots and lots of, you know, great reviews and articles about Daredevil and Matt Murdock, big Matt Murdock, you know, Daredevil fan site, essentially. So wrote this book about the science of Daredevil. So it's, you know, looking into...
Oh, that's right up your alley.
Yeah, it's but, you know, how does the site actually work? And she takes me to task a few times in here, you know, for stupid stuff like, you know, reading, like, computer screens with his fingertips in the past and whatever. But the point is, it's a great read, and there was actually a mention of Mole Man in there, which sort of inspired, like, hey, that would be great to, like, use Mole Man. And not, you know, she just mentioned something specific about, like he has a kind of a radar sense, and then I said, well, he has a little radar sense, and Matt has a radar sense. Maybe there's a moment, and that kind of, as I got into the whole idea of that this thing is under Hell's Kitchen, and how did Strucker dig it out, and then the Mole Man just came to mind, and this was, again, this to play with things that you haven't played with before, make the world larger, and I didn't feel the responsibility or stupidity of the past, where I might have felt like I had to over-explain everything. You know, how did this specifically happen? You know, there needs to be a 12-page sequence of deep explanation and captions of how the Mole Man met Strucker and blah, 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 and all the tortured, twisted dialogue around that. And instead it's handled in, you know, one flashback and move on. And I don't know if that's I don't think it's ticked anybody off. You know, I think people are kind of rolling with it and just having fun. That's like, hi, I'm Matt. Hi, I'm Harvey. You know, but as in Alfred Hitchcock land, you know, you never show a gun in the first act if you're not going to fire it in the third act. So I'll say that about the Mole Man as well. But
excellent.
And again, I mean, spoilers, kids. I mean, that's new information that Strucker knows he's Matt Murdock.
Yeah, and you know, I leaned into that and just again didn't I didn't worry about it. You know, I didn't worry about, like, it's just like it's because to me, Strucker is so above it all in that way, or everything else is so beneath him, rather. It's like your identity is me. It's like such the most insignificant thing, right?
It's like that Justice League episode where Lex Luthor gets into the Flash's body, lifts his mask off, is like, I don't know who this is.
Yeah, who are you, right? And it's like, I'm gonna use, now I know who you are, but I'm not gonna use it to do some, pedestrian threat to revealing you or threatening your people or anything like that. I'm just going to use it to demean you. You're a blind man, and therefore you're lesser, and therefore you have a handicap, and you must be, demeaned further. I mean, if this was part of a continuing series, I'd actually use that revelation now that you guys have brought it up and I'm thinking about it. Like, that would be a great moment for Matt to sort of think about his identity and realize, like, why did I go through all this BS of quote unquote killing myself and worrying about this, you know what I'm saying? Like that whole thing of like, oh, I must hide my identity to protect my friends from threats to it. Here's one of the biggest threats there might be, and he could give two shits about me. Now, well, let's just say by the end of this, Strucker may hate him more. But I don't know if that's a spoiler or not.
I mean, I was waiting for a line of dialogue for Strucker saying, you couldn't have never toppled the Kingpin without me, without the Hydra's help.
There's a little bit of a nod to that later on, and thank you, Phil. I mean, there's even there's little callbacks again that I enjoyed throughout this.
Oh, the Surgeon General callback. The Surgeon General callback. Yes,
you guys. I didn't do it specifically for you, but after it had been done, I realized, man, we actually got the Surgeon General in there. So yes, for you especially, now we have that moment where, without identifying her, it is that very specific reference of all possible things I could have drawn for my Daredevil run. We brought her back in a reference point, and somebody got it. Somebody said, "Oh yeah, that's from 304, 305." Or 30, whatever it was.
305 and 306, yes.
305 and 306. But there's a moment, where, and it's not like I went back and reread it. It was just in my head. But even when he says, you're a failed criminal, that sort of demean, or Kingpin is a failed criminal, that sort of demeaning thing calls back to that in a way. There's when Hydra blows up Fisk's stuff, there's a line from the lieutenant that's something like, you're only a criminal and we are conquerors, which is still like, has some free space in my head, because it was just like the level of things, the Kingpin is only ever here, very powerful, but these larger forces, and I know, you could have a Secret Wars and he could be slugging it out side by side with Dr. Doom, but there's moments I think that it's fun to think about that hierarchy.
I mean, I'm trying to make a joke, but I mean, he is the big fish in the little pond.
Yeah, and that's great, and because that's also Daredevil, and that's also his focus comes back to Hell's Kitchen, again and again and again. They'll do other things around the city, but it comes back to this particular moment, and even toward the end of this, as we get to the climax and the denouement, as it were, he'll have a line, I think, about acknowledging again, I only need to be worried about this. There are plenty of other forces that will worry about that stuff.
And you did promise us a flashback, which we got in the first couple pages, to his father.
Yeah, and that became that you'll see that actually, it's not spoilers. I mean, that actually became a cool device for me. I mean, that became, you're going to see that repeated through the next 3 issues. Wow. That became a really nice, I'm not going to say thematic device, but it became a nice device, which in this organic way that I now sort of, I guess, approach putting these things together a little bit more and following the flow and not trying to, I'm going to read my Joseph Campbell book and now I'm going to like crowbar in a bunch of Joseph Campbell like themes and stuff. I mean, I still love that and I still believe in that. And that's certainly influenced my, if you will, storytelling.
It works
ideas.
for Rick and Morty.
Yeah, it works for Rick and Morty, right? But you know, in the past I would have been like so obvious about like shoving this stuff into place. You know, now creating those moments, those flashback moments, which just became nice devices. And look, I get to kind of like play off certain things and introduce certain things, you know, in one form or another. They then resonate through the story later, like almost naturally, much as I think I said initially when I was talking to Devin, and I said, well, is this book just featuring the black armor, or is it about the black armor? I think I said that last time. And it is about the black armor, right? Even though he said it's just it's just the story. He's just wearing the black armor, and he wasn't being dismissive or trying to kind of play it down, but he wasn't trying to like make it into a bigger deal. But it becomes, you know, a little bit of the very last line of it kind of brings it back around, not of this issue, but of the whole thing. You know, brings it back around to sort of, I think, a nice bow in terms of acknowledging, if you will, thematic aspects of this without it being a crowbar. And the father thing in the gym, you know, becomes its own very meaningful thing. That I didn't sit down and like, oh, this will be a father-son thing, and therefore, you know, he can say, well, we already knows his father, so he can't have a, you know, Darth Vader line. No, I am your father. Yes, I know. Why are you saying that? Thank you very much. When did you get the soundboard, Phil?
Oh, I've had this for a while. Yeah.
You've already had it. You haven't used it.
You've been here long enough. You get pummeled with the sounds like the rest of them. All right.
Awesome.
But yeah, no, I mean, the whole thing with the black armor is like it's a little more in depth than like, you know, oh, Spider-Man changed his costume this week. It's like, you know, when Matt was wearing this costume, he was trying to pretend to be a whole different person in the world.
Right.
So it's going to be a little more in depth and stuff. And again, the Jack Batlin name, it's inspired by his father, and you know, so did you enjoy the flashback stuff? Because yeah, this is like an area you didn't touch in your first run. Is history
and you know, I didn't touch it at all. I didn't really, you know, I didn't think about the father much beyond that naming. Maybe I would have gotten into it. Seems kind of semi-natural that I probably would have explored it. But here it's fun, you know, and it's fun to kind of do that counterpoint to what his father told him not to do, you know, and him not only doing it, but doing it by learning from his father, you know, from a distance, you know, trying out these senses before Stick got in the picture and, you know, helped him refine it and focus it, but to pick up on his father, you know, from the locker room or just outside the gym or whatever, and using a way to kind of follow those cues to learn some of what his father is, and therefore be closer to him, it was an interesting thing. It was an interesting way to kind of play with the character bits of Matt, even though it's little Matt. And I love Netho's young Matt illustration so much. I want to do a little devil, you know, like series or something, sort of like, you know, young Matt Murdock, you know, running around the rooftops of Hell's Kitchen. But that became nice character moments, you know, character exploration stuff as well, because some of these issues do become very action. They are very action heavy. They have their moments, but even the moments in between are pushed toward a conclusion. You know, 3 is almost on a set stream of just one to the next, to the next, to the next, even with the, I'll call them character moments in between the more action-oriented moments. They're all just very, very directed toward that last page. You know, this one has a couple of different sort of beats. The Spider-Man beats sort of here, and then the wand beats sort of here, and it kind of like flexes through until the dial just starts to get turned up at the rail yard.
And then the whole thing with Jack, quote unquote, giving out legal advice. So is this just that, you know, Matt can't stay away from the law no matter what, even if he's supposed to be dead? You know, the law is so important to him. He has to keep a hand in the whole, you know, no matter what.
Yeah, Phil, thank you for like bringing that to the fore, and I'm glad that came through, because that's the not the counterpoint. That's the balance point in the whole story.
That Daredevil needs that balance, or
and right, and that was always in the back of my head. Where did we ended 325? Was the end of Fall from Grace, and in my muddled like run to 350 or something like that, which of course I never got to. That was like part of my Uber plan, right? That Matt's going to go through stuff, and Matt's going to confront certain things, and Matt's going to recognize how important the lawyer side of him is, and ultimately become the lawyer again, and get rid of Jack Batlin and just reveal to the world that Matt Murdock's around and go back to what he was, because he couldn't stay away from the law. But now I'm in this bubble, right? This different bubble, not the Twitter bubble where the 3 people who tag me and say Black Armor's great. What about the rest of you? I don't know. Like, the rest of you hate it for all I know. But the bubble here is this weird zone of, what people are calling the Black Armor era, where we know, in Marvel continuity, all he does is like destroy the costume and presumably go insane for 5 Mark DeMatteis issues. And then I guess he just reveals that he's alive, or somebody says Matt's alive. I don't even know what happens after that.
It's so weird, because after DeMatteis, like, I think it's like an issue or two. There was like 1 or 2 fill-ins, and then who was writing it? When they come back, he literally just walks in the court and it's like, my life was threatened, and when Nick Fury tells you to go in the witness protection, you go in the witness protection or something.
That was it. That was the way
it was. It was like a panel or two. It was basically just him basically saying, "Oh, Nick Fury put me in witness protection" or something.
sorry to be late, Your Honor.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's even better, man. What a fucking like.
It could be worse. He could have made a deal with Mephisto.
Yeah.
Somebody, isn't it funny? I don't know if you saw that, Lilith, but somebody thought that the whole Spider-Man scene was where he says, I don't make a deal with the devil, or where he's doing his like back and forth with them. Somebody got really bent out of shape that was a dig at that. What is it? One More Day.
Yeah.
Spider-Man series. Like, what a stupid joke about OMD, and that doesn't work.
That.
But I'm writing what's OMD? I said, I don't even know. Like, I'm totally ignorant of this. And they're like, OMD was this and this and this. It's like, well, listen, that all sounds interesting or horrible. I'm not sure which, but this is just a joke about the Venom costume. That's all it is. It's like, if you read the thing in context, it's and the guy has horns, so therefore he's a devil, and he's making a deal with the devil about information. That's it. It's no more complicated.
Some people's media literacy is not the best. It's okay.
Or too extreme. So I ran away from that reference, and I forgot what the original question was, and I lost my train of thought because we went off on this Twitter cognitive dissonance track. What were we talking about, Phil?
We were talking about we were talking about Matt in the law, and then you're
right.
Like, how did they bring up that?
No, that's the important point. And so this story, because it exists in this bubble, forced me to accelerate that, and in a great way. That again, I had not intended at the start of this. It wasn't like I sat down. And listen, for anybody who thought I had this story or any of this in my mind for the last 20, 25, 30 years or whatever the hell it's been, no, right? I wasn't like sitting around thinking about any of this, but it actually works out pretty well for me so far. That it feels like I did in a way, but I had to accelerate that because that's an important balancing point. So if I never get to do this again, and that there's no indication that I do, so I'm treating this as like, this is just, this is a great, like, actually elegant, like, Last Dance, as opposed to, as you pointed out, Lilith, Betrayal, Treason, all the titles of, the Alan Smithy stories. The legal aspect is so important. So the street legal thing where he sort of like says, I have to do this, right? Just like accelerating the Mole Man scene into like one flashback. Let's just have him come up with something. Let's just have him like start to kind of play. I'm going to play a legal guy on the street. I'm going to be the good Saul Goodman, of Hell's Kitchen and whatever else, and just start throwing out. He's never going to show up in court in this, but he could. There was one point when I was writing the plot outline, it just didn't fit in, in the sequence of stories here. But I had him give advice to somebody in the outline, and then I was going to have him sitting outside the court, like eating a sandwich or something, listening to the advice being played out in court. Like tell your court-appointed lawyer to do this, and then listening outside the court to hear, the mirror of that, to make sure that what he had advised actually was happening, so he could see that his influence was going beyond, I can tell you to file this form, I can tell you to go do this, I can tell you to go ask for this. But he obviously can't appear in court and do the defense and all that, but he can do everything up to that point. And that makes a balance, right? That was the whole point of the church scene in 1, where I need the two faiths. I need the church and the courts. Juan becomes a character. That guy becomes, that's not, he's going to show up again. It's not like just one scene here that I sort of threw in. That's setting up something to carry that through. I think that's now an important, well, they can dismiss it again, but for me, it's an important point of his growth during this bubble Black era, Black Armor era.
I mean, I can claim this in hindsight, but I'm like, I always thought the point of the whole storyline, like, had you been able to go to 350, was like, yeah, he needs that lawyer side of him, because if he's just Daredevil and Jack Batlin, he's just running amok, and he needs that counterbalance. Right. Yeah,
totally.
Which is so weird, because that's where we are at this modern point in Daredevil. All that to kind of circle back to he needs certain things.
Okay, good, because I purposefully have not been reading any of the current run as I was finishing scripting this, because I didn't want to be.
I think you will enjoy this modern part of Daredevil. Good. The person that's writing it is doing a really good job, kind of taking it back to street level, and really actually caring about Matt the person, and not just Daredevil all the time.
Right,
which we've been doing for quite a while.
Yep. And, there's a lot of Daredevil all the time in this
And
story.
can I recommend Gang War with Elektra whenever you get a chance?
Daredevil
That's
Gang.
really
yeah, that looks good, too.
It's such a great time to be a Daredevil fan right now, especially, so we got Black Armor, we got Gang War, we got the regular book. Everything's just doing really good.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I definitely want to check out both of those. And I had just consciously not been, because I did not. And I won't until I get the proofreading notes back on, and the editorial notes back on 4, just because I don't want to be.
Yeah,
there's nothing else I want to be influenced by. I don't want to pick up on any dialogue, anything that was, obvious.
You'll get to pick it up and trade at this point.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of modern stories are best, kind of just wait for the trade.
Yes, but you could lose the momentum of the series, and have the series. I mean, I'm sure there are people with this, because they announced the trade, I think, even before they announced the ship dates on the individual issues. And I guess there are people who just do that, and that's great for the trade. But then there's less momentum in the stores if nobody's going to pick up 1, 2, 3, and 4.
I don't know why they.
I do both. I'm such a glutton.
I don't know why they have to announce the. Well, I guess so people go pick it up, but the trades, because they pretty much collect everything now. So it's like
and it's structured for the trade, which I get, and I think is a smart thing, but it does make the momentum. I mean, before, in the olden days, right, you'd get the trade if the series was successful. If the series wasn't successful, you weren't going to get a trade out of it. It was just like, we did that, move on.
Good luck finding those floppies.
Yeah, I hate that term, floppies. But I mean, there's no Terror Incorporated, collection, right?
Just wait. Mark my words, just wait.
It was, there was no need. There's no saying, okay, let's collect this now. It's like, it was a quote unquote failed series, right? Didn't continue, so it's done. But now I think they structure these miniseries and these special event series.
Oh, even the regular books, they
well, the regular book, right? It becomes the omnibus. Here's issue 1 to 7. I mean, that's how I read Immortal Hulk, I think, the first time. I hadn't read the individual things, but then there were the 6, 7, 8, right? bulk collections, which, ran through them there.
So is that?
Yeah, I definitely don't recommend waiting for the trade for this.
Yeah,
go back and good luck finding them.
This reads better. This reads better if you buy 2 copies at a time, kids.
You got it. It just feels so good to have the variant and the main cover. I'm just saying.
Be like Live Hellfire.
You guys know. Unlike Russell, I do buy variant covers.
Oh yeah.
Does the story feel different when you read it?
It felt different reading it from the shiny cover. I'm not gonna lie, it was nice.
Yeah, right.
It had a nice heft. The cover was like card. A nice good card stock.
Yeah. It makes it feel like the '90s special colors. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Totally. And that's. Listen, I was never a fan of variant covers, and back in the day, here's a scratch and sniff, here's a mezzotint, here's a plastic bag job that they have to buy 4 issues of in order to kind of collect their little poster set. I mean, a lot of it became just BS, but I will say that shiny cover is pretty awesome. And I saw that they were going to put that on the trade, that particular
that cover
illustration, but it doesn't really work as you got it there in the lower right. It doesn't really work as well when it's just that. I'm hoping they're going to put some foil on that trade,
or let's put like something in the background, like the city or something.
Yeah, because just the white is not as effective. I would rather see Netho's cover on the trade because it's so fierce, and I think it reflects the story more than that. I mean, it's a lovely illustration. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's really, but it's not as in tune with the book, if you will, as say Netho's shot is.
How you want to push some units? Make that the cover. Then you got Spider-Man on there. You got
Well, it was funny. The couple of Galaxy Cons I had gone to, I had the black and white of that, and I had printed it up to just hang in the booth behind me, and just some more like, look, I'm a writer. Nobody's paying any attention to me anyway. Here's some visual stuff to kind of look over here, and everybody wanted to buy that one. Like, that I wasn't even selling it, and they're like, "Oh, can I buy that illustration just in black and white because it's so striking?"
Oh yeah,
and it's just a great shot.
Yeah, the combination of you two is really great. I really enjoy hearing the process about like how like you saw that, you're like, oh, that belongs there.
yeah, and that Spider-Man shot's a good. Also, going to give some credit again to the editorial guys. There's some of that captioning on that. The original thing I think just had the line from Spider-Man, and the lines the cover lines from the gym. Take a swing, and then Daredevil's intro statement, and then Spider-Man's jab at him. And then the other lines about, Spider-Man thinks I'm dead and blah, blah, blah. Like those were a little later in the scene, and editorial, said, no, we got to bring these up earlier. I was trying to kind of draw the audience in, and then I could deliver the stuff across it. But they wanted to kind of, no, let's take care of this now, get the lock in on, the background details. And that was a good clarity suggestion. And that's part of the process. There's one, process share. There's 1-2 lines at the beginning of the rail yard scene that I had rewritten for clarity to sort of establish how does he know something bad is going here. But somewhere between me writing those and the final issue, somebody rewrote those and obviously trying to make it more clear about something. So I'm hoping I can get those corrected for the trade, but I don't know if that's going to happen. So those lines there are not like me approved. They don't break anything necessarily, but they're just like, they're not the same cadence and flow that I was trying to go for.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, so maybe it just hits me. But I mean, I love your dialogue. I mean, that scene in Spider-Man is perfect.
It's that verbal sparring. If you don't nail that, then you don't nail Spider-Man. You nailed that.
Got Spider-Man's dialogue, and again, Netho can draw Spider-Man. Right. So I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, I just love, he makes that first crack about the, if you don't want people to call it armor, don't make it look like armor, and then Daredevil shoots back. Well, didn't you used to swing around the city wearing an alien? And he's like, that hurts.
You are the devil, But
like I said, I enjoy the Hobgoblin stuff. It's my favorite stuff.
Well, we love it.
He's like, who's on balance now? And I'm like, it's still you. It's still
right. Well, Lilith, we love seeing the Hobgoblin get kicked in the face. So
I do.
That works.
It's my favorite. We dedicate a whole month to it on Spidercast every single year.
just great line, like violence first, I approve. It's like, it's just, it's a fun character to write in that way, and just kind of like letting the words off the leash. That's the follow up Black. Yeah,
oh, what? Follow up what? Follow up what?
No. I was going to say, if there's ever, and there isn't. There's nothing. There's no.
Oh, come on, Dan. It's the holiday season. Give me a headline. Come on.
I swear.
Let me break some news.
My mother's going to the comic book shop, and stealing my issues. There is no news of anything new. But as you're talking about it, wouldn't that be like a cool, follow up to things of now we've set the stage for a Spider-Man new Daredevil team up, especially with that scene kind of going on about like, well, don't not too fast as a first date, and Daredevil clearly wanting to recapture some of that, that relationship and that thing. That would be a fun full on adventure, between the two of them. But there's all sorts of things you could do.
Oh yeah, stay tuned for the kids. The follow-up 5 issues. Yes, Spider-Man and Daredevil kick Hobgoblin in the face.
Right,
yes,
right. or the courtroom scene. Where Matt says his line about witness protection, and then Melvin comes in at the back of the courtroom. Oh, like here, this is yours. And he has a little package, and he opens it up, and it's the suit. For him after the fact. If you want to use this, I've got it for you.
I don't know what it was. I think it was in the first DeMatteis issue where it's like he just had the red suit sitting around somewhere. So I don't know where it came. He never explains it, but yeah,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Mark's a great writer, and anything I've ever said, negatively there is just in the interpretation of that Matt was so confused or whatever by this alternate thing, and it's a choice, and I don't know what editorial direction he has. I have no animus or anything except respect for Mark. The issue before there, where they cut it up in the bedroom, that we know,
Warren Ellis, yeah,
that one's like, what the fuck, but that's also just a choice and a funny one at that.
Well, the joke's on them now, because this is great. I've seen nothing, like I said, nothing but great reception. Every time I go into my comic book stores, they're gone. Day of.
That's
absolutely
good.
just gone.
Anywhere I go online, I see praise for this thing. I don't see,
and
what is this?
That's crazy, because online is...
Oh, yeah.
Especially
on
the internet. Yeah.
I haven't seen, I've obviously, done the Google search and, the sad, pathetic thing of typing in, like, review and
Your
stuff.
Own name.
And trying to... and yeah, the only negative things, I know they're out there, but the only really negative things I think I've seen are just some video reviews of people who just,
why does it exist?
No, it's more, it's more,
Why was it Hobgoblin on page 1 and we had to wait till the middle of the issue?
Yeah, it's more the rambly, like, kind of review podcast things, which I never really understand, where they're almost like reading it in real time. It's sort of like, oh, yeah, there's something here. I don't know. His name is Jack? Is that the guy from the boxing ring? I'm not really clear on what's going on here. And he's wearing this. I don't know when this takes place. Seems like there's a lot of action. The art looks good. Yeah, I'd give it like a 6 out of 10. Maybe I'll pick up the second.
Oh, so a bunch of children who've been reading comics for 5 minutes. Okay.
I'm not sure. So, but there's been some really good, I think constructive, thoughtful reviews, which haven't all been just praise. They've been give and take, and I respect that they've taken enough time to. Now, where's our Wired review? Have we sent them the copy? Well, this one doesn't have. Wired doesn't have the juice it once had, and I chose not to use the hacker in this story, so they won't cover this. But no, so this is something and I'm not looking for for the talk show kind of like praise or anything, but I'm just curious because you guys have been such kind reviewers over the time, and you are pretty familiar with my body of work, God help you. I mean, what are you seeing that's different about the way this is written, yet is still like me, I guess? I feel like it's just a more mature, streamlined version of your writing in the best way. I really see the growth. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the thing that's still the same with you, I say, is like the dialogue. Like,
the dialogue.
Yeah.
Quippy,
Good.
poignant.
Because again, there's so many.
A little more to the point now.
And there's so many different Marvel characters in here, and I think, I've been reading these things for decades. I mean, I think everyone sounds like they're supposed to. I mean, yeah.
Good.
Like, I
good.
think you didn't take it, like, too seriously. Like, sometimes you would take some things a little too seriously.
Yeah.
I feel like you're having nothing but fun, and, like, you're just,
Right.
like, in a really good headspace. And I think I feel the joy that you had coming back to the character, actually.
Thank you.
It comes through.
That's great. That's a great way of putting it. No, and I appreciate that, like, kind of like analysis, that it somehow like feels like me, but it's, it's this different, well, more mature, beyond the gray hair, version of me. But
like I said, I feel like everything that you went through, like the marketing, the ads and stuff, like everything is just built up to this perfect point for you to come back and visit this character and kind of give the fans of that run a little closure, a lot of justice. And like, now that people are like, it's a landmark run now,
I know. Isn't that like, that's awesome. Legendary writer. It's like the legendary writer returns from his landmark run. Really? Honestly, who? Like, but I'll take it. I'll run with it.
And it's introduced new people, and hopefully they go back and read it and fall in love with it, just the way Phil and I did.
Oh yeah, I mean, stuff's getting collected. I mean, well, of course, Fall from Grace is always collected, but it's like, I mean, aren't they doing what are those the Epic collections or something? Because I saw that like they collected like from Anne's run into your starting into your run and stuff. Yeah.
I saw Man Without Fear site, Kuljit Mithra's site. He puts out the dates for new stuff, and I saw I think there's, following the collection of this, there's a Fall from Grace collection and a Root of Evil collection, but I think those are just going to be the Epic collections again.
Okay.
I think they just reprint. I don't think they're going to just do that singular Fall from Grace collection or do just a Root of Evil collection. They'll probably just redo the Epic ones where those stories are bundled in with a lot of other stuff. That would be my guess.
Because I mean, Fall from Grace has been collected a few times, hasn't it?
It was originally collected in its own because it was successful. Like that was, then they did a specific Fall from Grace collection, which had extra pages in it, which I think have been bound into the Epic collections, but they never reprinted that one ever. They never went back to that one. Had that really striking, it's not over here, but it had that really striking Scott McDaniel cover. He did a very stylized Elektra and Daredevil on the cover, and but that one was, to my knowledge, never reprinted. And I was always going into the stores and, what did I do wrong? Right? There's no, and they never collected Root of Evil. They never collected the Elektra mini because I guess it just didn't do well enough. But now they've done at least one or two of the Epic, reprints. But I know they just did a second printing of the Last Rites Fall of the Kingpin, the one where the Fall of the Kingpin story is in there. They're weird because you see the title and the cover is Fall from Grace, but that's not necessarily the lead story. Like it might be buried in the middle of it. So I think
they're a little bit better about that nowadays too, though.
In terms of how they're structuring it or like arranging the issues and stuff. Yeah. I mean, they're nice. They're beautiful. They're nice volumes. I mean, it's great to have all that stuff in one place. It's just always funny how they structure it.
Yeah. Again, they just need to figure out how to start reprinting some of this old stuff that never collected or anything. Because like I said, not just you. I see other writers like DeMatteis and all them that who have runs that everyone loves and they never like collected them. And it's like, why not?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I guess most things are available right on Marvel Unlimited, but I think there's still.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah, I was going to say there's still some gaps.
I think your original Daredevil run's all on there now. I know for a while it wasn't, but I don't know if it was just playing catch up or what. But I think it is all on there now.
Right. The interns alone, they're doing the best they can, scanning the pages,
scanning stuff. Right, there's a lot of the time. I'm sure the film's not available, and it is scanning pages. But I don't know. Could you find Terror Incorporated on Marvel Unlimited? I guessing not, but who knows? I've never looked for it.
Last I looked, I don't think it was on there. But again, I mean,
it's changing all the time.
Yeah,
right.
Well, especially if someone's making an appearance next year, maybe they will start.
Yeah. Well, that's out of my control. Like
I know.
Whatever they're doing.
But he better fucking be involved, Marvel.
But again, I'll give if if they've got him in a futuristic trench coat and some kind of like thing there, then at least they're staying consistent and they're not doing, a futuristic Deadpool outfit or a futuristic, battle dress, type of thing. So it'll be interesting to see what they're. Honestly, I probably won't even see it, but I hope they do the character justice and have some fun with it.
And I think I've asked you this before, but like on Marvel Unlimited, when your stuff's on there, like when people read it, do you get residuals or whatever for like
you get
does it work like Amazon Kindle or like the Kindle Unlimited where you have to read the whole story for it to count towards the credit?
I have no idea how that goes. I think it's probably, I don't know. I mean, I get incentive payments on various things, and there are sometimes there are digital line items on there. They do itemize it, and they're pennies. Literally, they're pennies. But over time they might add up to a couple dollars. Well,
it's so hard to think of that even back then. So
no, none of that was thought about, and obviously, and so the fact that they're doing it is that's nice. I'm sure it's a very, very small fraction of whatever they're making off of it.
I just wonder too. Is I saw somebody said something recently. I don't know how true it is or not, but like supposedly digital hasn't taken off as well as they wanted it to.
And it never will.
I know.
Until it gets better. Like it has to. Like the format has to be a little more accessible. It just does.
But I don't know if it's just me being an old man, but I'm like, it made me happy that the paper is still king.
And I think it's to me it's the shopping experience, and that's what it kind of comes down to. And that came to mind just more from because it's Christmas time, and I'm shopping for presents. And this is also I think the part of like Comixology just being like sort of absorbed into Kindle. On the beyond that is I go into a store, even like the sad store, right? The sad, like, good for you store. You can see everything at once, right? And I can get my eye candy and I can be drawn to this and I can be drawn to that. Comics online or in a digital form, I feel much more, you have to go and look for them.
It's a very active...
Right, I have to know
what you're looking for, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you can browse. I mean, there's Hoopla, which is like a book, movie, comic thing that goes through like the local libraries. So you can download the comics for like a loaning basis, for a couple of days. Has an okay interface, can like, oh, here's what's trending, here's what's new. But, it's still clunky, right? It feels...
Comixology was the best one. I don't know how Amazon fumbled that. I don't know.
Well, they don't want multiple readers, right? And they want to then have you within the world of their bigger book world, their bigger auto,
which it just kind of does. I don't think a lot of people really understand like the niche of the comic book community. Like I said, like it's a third space, and like it's a dying third space, just like malls are, and we just really have to like.
Yeah,
keep it alive.
You can't browse on Kindle like as well, right? I mean, I have dozens of books on Kindle I've bought that I can't find half the time. So I mean, to sort of then now browse for comics, and I think I'm going to browse for a comic because Lilith, you recommended something, and I'll like, go look for it. I mean, when I stumble across things that I've never heard of before, I feel like it's a gem, right? It's like, oh wow, I was really lucky I found Killock or Harrow County or something like that I never even knew existed. But those are much harder to find in the way these interfaces are built now. And I think if they're not taking off like they thought they would, I think there's that aspect, that
it's just nothing like holding
you back.
Like I actually read an actual newspaper, and I was just like, it took me back to like high school. I was just like, oh my god, something in my hands.
Right. But if you walk on,
giving me radiation poisoning.
I mean, my mother's like the perfect example again, right? She walks up to the shelf, she sees that mirrored cover, and she grabs it out of my hand. She grabs it off the shelf, and it's like, and then she flips through it. Okay, it's a gimmick, but yeah, something catches your attention. That Bagley cover is attention getting, and that's going to get your eye, in on it in that physical form. But I think
it is an art form too, and art needs to sometimes be experienced on a one-to-one physical sensation, all your senses, like even the
Right.
smell of the paper, even though it's not like old school comic, still has
Right.
a smell, still has a certain feel that can take you back.
Especially on a Daredevil book.
Right, especially right. Wait till you get to that scratch and sniff scene in issue 3.
Is that the Carnage scene?
No, that's the that's where he says it still smells like alley cat. We pay that off,
no.
like look. smell Sabretooth up close and personal, like we'll have an awful time with that. I could have probably suggested that like back in 1998, and somebody would have said, "Yeah, hey, can we do that? That's great."
To the universe.
Oh, the next version of Fall from Grace. There's a scratch and sniff scene somewhere. Oh, man. Oh, hopefully it's not when they chase Morbius into the sewer. Okay?
Down in the subways, the sewers. That would be like awesome.
That'd be a little too real for the New Yorkers.
Experience it like Daredevil does, like Matt's hypersense issue. That would be like the best gimmick like book ever, where you had like sound chips embedded in it, so you could like hear the extra sounds he hears. You scratch and sniff.
They're
something.
doing variant covers now with sound chips. What was that? Is that the Justice League vs. Godzilla or whatever they're doing? Yeah, so
you had a tactical page or tactile page where you could like feel the ridges like he feels it. I tell you, see.
Sapolsky, everyone on this screen better get credit for that idea when that comes out.
That's right. When all that, like, the full sensory edition of Daredevil, like, the ultimate gimmick, and then all the pages are black, so you don't have to worry about the artwork because you can't see anything, but you can hear and you can taste and you can smell everything else. That would be the best.
Just hear like a thwack. What was that? Hood hit a hood over the head.
Exactly, but you hear it, right? Like you just like
you hear heartbeats and stuff. Yeah.
I think it would be awesome. Anyway, I got to get running because I got to go talk to a tattoo artist.
Yeah, we do.
So gotta go, guys. This has been awesome as always.
Thank you, sir. Yes.
Have a wonderful holiday, and
do the same.
And I will. I'll see you in a month or so.
Yes,
and we'll
for number
see
3.
how 3 pays off.
Before you leave, you want to promote anything?
No.
Story Maze or anything?
My newsletter, which I hope to get a holiday edition out finally. But storymaze.substack.com, and we'll talk about more stuff in a month.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank
you
so much.
Thank
you for
Be good. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.